Hello there, welcome. Today I wanted to make a little video talking about my annotations and how I annotate my book and manga, because it's a video that I've been wanting to make for a little while. I tried to make it before, but then for some reason I never finished it. I think it was one of those cases where I started it and then my camera battery died and I gave up on it. So here we are. So I am going to show you a couple of examples of like how I used to annotate my books, how I annotate them now, and also how I annotate my manga, because I recently started annotating my manga as well, and it's so fun. So when I first started annotating, probably in like 2019, 2020, something like that. It was really like not when I first started reading, but I started going on BookDoc and BookTube, and I saw people annotating their books and I was like, that looks kind of fun. But just like many people who don't annotate their books, I was just scared of writing in my books and ruining them. So what I started out doing first, I'm gonna give a little example. This is the very first book I ever annotated. It's a Dutch book called The Laatste Dans, which translates to The Last Dance. It's still one of my favorite books, and I'm very sad that it's not translated in English, otherwise I would recommend it more. But if you're feeling a little silly, if you're feeling a little goofy, you can go ahead and buy it and just have fun translating it page by page, because it's really fun. It's a mystery slash horror slash dance book. It has a paranormal element to it and possession, and it's very creepy. But yes, anyway, that's not why we're here. This is why I said it's my very first annotation, because this is the very first tab that I've put in a book. And I remember it's because a friend I had at the time that's no longer my friend, a specific line in this reminded me of her like a lot. Like it was exactly the same thing that she said. Oh my god, I keep forgetting that this one at one point I spilled water on it. That's not fun, but yes. So that's the very first tab I ever placed in a book. It's not even aligned correctly, and it's also one of those favorite tabs so you can't see through. That's the very first example I have to give of like when I first started. I didn't write it, I didn't underline it or anything. It was literally just stick a tab into it because it reminded me of my friend at the time, and that's it. But then I started getting more into tabs and annotations and stuff like that, and I really wanted to try it. And I first tried it while I was reading One of It Is Lying by Karen and McManus. As you can see, it kind of like gets worse over time. Like at the beginning of the book you have like 1 or 2 tabs, and then we slowly get into like more tabs. And again, these are like paper tabs. I think there are a couple that are transparent because at the time I just used what I had already in my room and what I could find. So I mostly had like paper tabs, and also at a random little store I found transparent tabs, so I also bought those. And so yeah, I don't think I have an annotation key for these. I do not. The first one, I think I'm gonna try and remember what exactly each of these tabs mean, because for a very long time I used the same system, the same colors. So that's not gonna be very difficult to remember, but like, yeah, that's why. And so at first I used the same colors for everything. I always had the same system, the same like keys and everything. So I remember that the yellow tabs meant important. So then whenever I thought something was like foreshadowing or like maybe important for later, I would just stick a yellow tab in it, and that is like the very first one I put into this. It's not even underlined or anything, so I don't know what this like is referring to. But especially in mystery books I would use the important tab a lot. Over the years I actually changed what the important tab meant. It's not just like important for the story or the plot or for later or like foreshadowing. Later on I also started using it for like important parts of a character, or like just anything that is important, whether it's for the plot, the story, the mystery or the characters or the world building, all of that, I all compacted into one, because I had one point where I had like 50 different tabs for 50 different things, and it was a lot to keep up with. So yeah, you'll see in a minute what the shit show looks like with those, okay? And then I remember that green meant funny. I always use the green one to indicate funny. I used to really go off of mostly what each of the colors like resembled to me, and then also sometimes going off of what at the time the annotation videos I saw on YouTube. I used to go off of those as well. So then I used green for funny tabs, and then the pink ones, like the see-through ones, I think even the paper ones, I don't remember, I used for moments I loved. Or yeah, I think at the beginning I mainly just used it for like my favorite quotes and also for moments I loved in a book, and then later on I actually started using the like love tab for also like relationships. Like when two characters start falling in love, I would also tab that, favorite quotes, so on and so forth. The next one is orange, which I used to use for angry moments, so the things that made me angry or stuff like that. It could be just like something a character does just makes me angry, or it's something with the writing that made me angry. It can depend on, you know, it can depend from like what the story is, if it's based on like the story itself or like the way the writer wrote it. Obviously, like I said later on, I used to have like 50 tabs, so then those two distinctions were actually separated as well. It's a whole mess, but we're gonna get into that in a minute. Then we have blue, which I believe at the time was for sad. I'm an idiot. No, I think, was it? No, yellow was important. I think the blue one was for sad, I think. Because I have a memory that I used yellow at one point for relatable, and then also blue for important. So I don't know if halfway through I switched and then blue became important and then yellow became relatable. Let me check, because I know the first tab in this was important, because I used to go back to that one. No, I don't know, but case in point is I used to use blue a lot for sad moments, and since obviously I had like not that many tabs, I used this one specifically. But later on that does change as well, because later on I do buy more like different tabs that are all transparent, so I kind of leave the paper tabs behind. But what I've seen a lot of people like prefer the paper tabs, because they at the same time use them as sticky notes to write on, so then they can write on like little thoughts and stuff like that. And then if it's a bigger thought, they would use like bigger sticky notes, which I did use, because at first I didn't write in my books. I did tab and annotate and then also write little note, but I used to write them on sticky notes, and then later on I would try with pencil, writing in pencil in my books, and also underlining in pencil, and now I use pens. So it really just evolved the more comfortable I became with like everything. And also it kind of changed because I in a way also stopped caring so much to have it like squeaky clean, because at the same time I realized that the way that I annotate, or like maybe even the like little mess ups and stuff like that, it's not like it's important that I continue like that I write everything correctly, or that I underline everything correctly, because it's not like I'm getting any reward from doing it correctly. It just gives the book a bit more of a personal touch, in my opinion. That's also why whenever I go to a thrift store and I see books, I like to like look for books that have tabs and annotations in them, to like see what people thought of the book and like what's going on and stuff like that. I like it. It looks really cool. I know a lot of people don't like books that are tabbed and annotated because they think it's not that like good looking, but that just depends from person to person. I personally like the look of it, especially later on when I started matching the colors of the tabs to the cover. That's like another level of things. But you know, it's funsies, it's fun, okay? Next we have a very strange tab that I have no idea what it means. It's this one. It's kind of like a teal color with like a grid on it. I don't know if you can see that because it's pretty light. Let me see if I can change the camera a little. Nope, that's zooming in and out. Does this work better? Does it? No. I mean, you can kind of see it, the grid. I have no I don't remember what that one meant. And I'm pretty sure this is the last book. No, I also did it. Oh, let me also grab that one because that one is insane. Where is it? God, I need to rearrange my bookshelves. Here she is. We'll talk about her in a minute because that's the book where I really got into annotating. Let me try and figure out what's it. Oh God, I'm ripping off the text. Anyway. I honestly have no idea what this one is. I made the mistake of not writing down what each tab meant. Probably because I thought I was going to keep the same system, but I honestly can't see what does this one mean, because I know it comes up more often. So maybe, hold on, is this one supposed to be sad? Question mark? Or this one also just mean important because what? Or maybe this was like shocking or something. What? I don't remember. I honestly don't remember because like from what I read that's like near the tab, nothing makes sense. But anyway, let's move on. That tab means something. So if you do want to start annotating, I highly suggest you write down what each tab means, which is something I'm also going to show in a later book, because I do start like having an annotation key at the beginning of the book, just because also now I don't have the same tabs every time. Like I have a different system for each book because I tried to match the colors to the cover, so then I actually do forget what each tab is, so then I can just flip back to the beginning and like remember, oh okay, so that one is that tab is for that moment. But right now I'm actually lost. It's also been a minute since I read this book, so I have no idea what's going on anymore. I think those are all of the different tabs that were in here. Question mark? Yeah, I think we've just gone over every single tab. I literally just can't figure out. Does this one also mean important? What? I think I have like 3 different tabs that mean important in this. What? And then one thing that I also used to do at the beginning that I don't really do anymore, because I mean I don't really let people borrow my books. So when I finish a book, I don't really feel the need to do this anymore, but I used to put like a little sticky note with like trigger warnings at the back in case I were to borrow it to people, just so that, you know, before they read it they know what's going on. And at the beginning of the book I would write down when I started and when I finished it. And let me just try and find some of the annotation. And at first I didn't really write that much in my book. Now I literally waste time writing things down. It's awful. The very first note that I write in this book, the very first note I ever write in a book, is Cooper's dad can go suck a dick. Poetry. So yeah, and then it would be like on the literally just the sticky notes that I had at the time, so they're like kind of like, you know, like that. And they also stick both very badly, but once they stick on there, okay? Like I'm pretty sure that if I were to take any of these out right now, I'd rip the page basically, because they're so bad. But now let's move on to probably my most annotated book I own, and it's genuinely concerning. It's A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Caballero, and can you tell I love this book? I mean, I'm not sure you can tell, maybe, possibly. Like, this book is well loved. I read this one twice. I think I annotated it when I reread it. Pretty sure I didn't annotate the first time I read it, but I did annotate the second time, so then that's why my reread was in November of 2020. Jesus Christ. But yes, now let's try to get over every single tab, because once again I didn't write down what each tab meant, so I generally probably won't know what the fuck was going on, but you know, we're going to try. So yeah, already we're like getting into it, like quite a couple of more. At this point I had bought a bit more tabs, so I had more transparent ones, but as you can tell, I still use the paper ones and also use some other ones that I still had on hand. So just like before, the green means funny, and then the pink means is for my favorite moments, and I think I also use that one for quotes. All right, and still I think so. And then I still use sticky notes to motherfucker focus. Okay, to just write down some thoughts. Oh And then we have one of these, which were like little tabs that I got with like a stationery set. So they're like the same paper tabs, but in different shades of blue. And I honestly don't remember which each meant. I think this one I used to whenever there was a new character, and then in this one specifically, I don't remember how long I kept doing this. I would write down each of the characters mentioned and like what's the first thing we learn about them. Yeah, pretty sure. It's because I'm very forgetful, so then in case I would forget who's who, I had a little note at the beginning of the book with each character. I don't do that anymore, even though now that I read Danmei, I probably should. But at the same time, in Danmei's, at the beginning of the book, you do have like a glossary of every single one of the characters. But I think I should do my own just to be sure that I don't accidentally get spoiled. We'll see. I might start doing that again. Then here I don't understand, because I also have a green paper tab. I don't think that one meant the same. Don't remember what the green paper tab one. I know that my very first annotation key was pink for moments I loved, green for funny, yellow for important, blue for sad, and I think those were the only 4 that I had at the time. So then I would just use those, and then for like little extra stuff for like relatable and characters, I would use different tabs. But I don't know if both the paper tabs and the transparent ones mean the same still, because I know that later on with different types of tabs, even though they're the same color, if they're like different, I would still use them for different things, which is what I'm going to show in a moment. But yeah, and then also the yellow tab, I think the yellow paper one is still for important, and then the transparent one is for also important. I'm genuinely confused, but as you can tell, I did get a lot more comfortable annotating and tabbing in this. I still didn't write directly in the book. I still use sticky note, but I think what I did start doing in here as well was keeping especially in mysteries, I would like use again note to write down at certain like points what was going on, just so that, you know, up until a certain point, like everything that, like how the plot continued moving forward. I stopped doing that just because I didn't like it as much. Another thing that I did start doing, I don't think I did it here. I think, no, I did. You see the tabs at the top right there? I used to do that on the side to indicate like an entire page, or like if it's like really a moment that's like my favorite, or like if it's like just the whole page is like really funny to me, I would put a tab at the top of the page to indicate which page it is. And same thing with like my favorite moments, and also if like a specific page made me cry, I would also put a tab at the top of that to indicate that like the sad moment on this specific page made me sob, which is something I continued doing. And I actually started putting the tabs at the top of the book, which I stopped doing because it was really annoying. And as you can tell, I adore this book. Yeah, this book is very well loved. Okay, I bought a copy as a gift for a friend, and I had mine and hers side by side. Mine looks busted, okay? It's so bad. But I was maybe planning on buying the same copies but in hardback, just because if I want to reread this, I'm probably gonna re-annotate it, but there's no space left for any tabs. I think there's at least one tab on every single page in this book. It's wild. I think in this book specifically, I also added a specific tab for like sad moments, which I do remember is this like darker blue paper tab that I started using. But when it comes to the other ones, like whether they're transparent or paper, I think they still mean the same. But I don't remember exactly, so don't quote me on that, okay? I probably should reread it with these tabs just to see what they mean, because I don't remember. Let me grab my copy of Kingdom of the Wicked for the next example, because this is around the time that I started like having one annotation key for everything. Like this is a couple of years after, I think the first time I read this. Yeah, this is like a year after I read A Study in Charlotte while I reread it, and so I made a permanent annotation key that I would stick at the beginning of the book. And basically I had different tabs, so like I had regular tabs, which are the regular transparent ones that I showed before, and then I had the post-it one that were, you know, like the transparent ones that only the end of it that stick out of the book have a certain color to it. And then other tabs, what other tabs? I don't remember, but those are like, at this time, those were the two different tabs that I had. I also had the arrow ones, but at the time I didn't use these yet. So let's get through this one now. At the beginning I did use only like the neon tabs, which later on I actually like kind of left behind. As you can see at the top I still did this, but this time I used the large post-it tabs to put those at the top, which were like for a very long time, and to this point, to today still, whenever I do want to like tab a specific page for like anything, I would use the large like post-it tabs and put them at the top of the book, not on top here, but like on the top of the page here, just so that when I do place a book like this with other books next to it, it doesn't damage the tabs, because that can get really annoying. So in this one, yellow, I think it still meant important. Yes, at this point yellow still meant important. I don't think yeah, so yeah, okay, so yeah, at this point yellow still meant important, just like again, important to the plot, important to like the mystery, because I usually just read mysteries, so then whenever there's like even just a mystery element to it, anything that could relate to it, I would tab it, or like foreshadowing, I would tab it. Then the dark blue, I believe at this time I did start using it for sad moments, question mark, out of context. Sure. I used to have a specific tab for quotes and moments that I thought would be very funny if they were put out of context. I would actually just use those tabs for TikTok videos to make compilations of them, but I ended up stopping using those tabs because it didn't happen often enough to make that kind of content, so I just stopped. And then I have like this like large light green tab in here, which I think I used for when there was a new character. Yeah, so just like before, I still kept tabs with every single time a new character was introduced. And then I would also use yellow to indicate I would use it differently. Yeah, I would use a teal tab to indicate like character information. So this time I did start using tabs to indicate information about character, but it still wasn't the same tab as the important tab. They have this pink one right here, which is not like the one that I use for my favorite moments. This one I used for quotes, so it's still pink, but it's a different tab. If you think it's stupid, it's because it is. And then another stupid thing is that I would use the post-it yellow tabs, these ones, to write into like tab whenever I had a question about something about the plot. Like whenever I would ask a question to the book itself, I would put a tab in that, which I also stopped doing because I realized how silly that was. And then here you have the teal tab to indicate character information. And I think the big blue one at the time I used to indicate important moments, I think, or sad ones. I can't remember for the life of me. I didn't write those down, but I think it was for sad moments. Oh yeah. Then I would also use like the large yellow tabs to indicate like something important. Like for example, in this you have like a note from like within the book, and so I would also put like a large yellow tab on this one just to indicate that that's there. Same thing over here. And I think at this point I did start writing in my books as well, but with pencil. I would also underline with a pencil, but sometimes when they were like really large, like I knew I was going to write a lot, I would still use sticky notes and write it still with pencil on there. And yeah, I just realized, yeah, right here, you still have like characters on here and like information that I find, and like basically making my own glossary of the book, which I stopped doing because I realized that most of the time I would just forget to write things down, and then it would just basically be useless. But I think you get the gist of it. And then I also started adding purple tabs like these ones, which would mean, I think I already started doing this, yeah, like the light purple transparent one would mean shocking, and then the dark purple one mean what the fuck moments, which is again different. Like I would use the, nowadays when I use the important tab, I would also like make it important for like plot, character, etc, etc, but also would use it for plot twists, so like shocking moments, so anything that's like important, so like important for later, foreshadowing, and then also the plot twist, and then also obviously like the what the fuck moments, I would like join that in with the angry tab. And then I had a couple of other like tabs that I stopped adding because I rarely use them, one of them being the, like I mentioned before, the out of context tab. I would also remove the character info because I would join that one in with the important tab. I would also remove the answers tab, so like whenever there was like a tab where I asked a question, I would also have a tab when that question is answered, which once again I know is useless, but bear with me for the sake of this video. I would also have a tab for smut, but because I rarely read smut, so I would just remove the smut tab. So I would basically just tab anytime there was a smut scene. I stopped doing that because that tab was rarely used. And then when it comes to other tabs, sometimes I would also just add, for example, a tab to a specific scene or a moment that reminds me of a song that would then add later on to the bookish playlist that I will always make for every single book that I read. Or for example, if in a contemporary book a song is mentioned, I would also tab that one and then also add that one to the playlist. Then I would also have a chaos tab, so when there's a very chaotic moment in the book, I would tab that. A lot of useless tabs, okay? I realized that later on. I would also have a draw tab, which would be specific like scenes or moments that I felt like I would want to draw later, so then I would tab those so that I could come back to it later. I would also have a pop culture tab, which is kind of the same as the song tab, which specifically in contemporary, if I were to find like a pop culture reference, I would tab that, even though I hate pop culture references most of the time in a book. And that's it for this one. This is kind of like the system that I had for a very long time. I think it was around that time as well that I read this one. Then yeah, I would have like each time I would print out an annotation key and put the tabs on there like this. For this book specifically, I think I read it the same year or a year after Kingdom of the Wicked, so it's similar, but I did already start trying to match the tabs to the cover, and I would have the annotation key pre-written and then would just add any tab to it whenever I would add a new tab. And a couple of other tabs that I used to use but not anymore is the scary tab. So whenever something that would like be, whenever I would be reading a horror book, I would tab moments that like scared me. I don't use that much anymore. I just, you know, would match that one up with like other tabs. Another tab that I used to use a lot was the ew tab, so moments that disgust me. But that one again, I just added that one to the angry tab, so I would just make it like angry, ew, disgust, etc, etc. Another tab that I used to have was the fruity tab, so that one was for like if I knew a book had some kind of queer representation, whether it was like the main focus of the book or if it was like a background character or like it had like a queer vibe to it, I would just use that tab to kind of be like, that's kind of fruity. But I don't really use that one anymore because I mostly just read queer books nowadays, so it's kind of like I would just have to use that one all the time. I do use, I think when I first started reading Dawn May, I did still have that tab though before when like to tab gay moments, but I think now I actually merged that one into with like my favorite moments and like my like the love, favorite moments, quotes, etc tab. Then I actually changed, I think this was actually before this system where I started matching the tabs to the cover. I did something else, which is this. Let's get into it. First time I did this, I'm pretty sure it was either Vicious or House of Hollow, one of the two. I don't think I wrote down. I started that one in September of 2021, and this one I think it was in October of 2021 question mark. I think that one was later on. Yeah, I think I did this one first, which would be a similar system to the one from Kingdom of the Wicked, which would be like, as you can tell, it's the same tabs. However, another thing that I started doing as well is to color the edge of the page for every tab that I did like use for it. So for every tab, like the first tab that I would place in a book, I would color the edge of that page in that color, which at first it was fun to do, but because I have both like, you know, darker tabs and neon tabs and non-neon tabs, it ends up looking quite fugly. So I stopped doing that, but not immediately, unfortunately, because House of Hollow also fell victim to this experiment, which, if you don't know, House of Hollow is one of my favorite books of all time, and I'm sad that I put it through this, because now even if I want to go back and reread it and like change the tabs to also match the cover, the edge of the pages are still fugly. But yes, I still have the same annotation key. For this one, it was the main annotation key, which I don't have anymore, so for the life of me, I wouldn't know what most of these mean at the time. So yeah, but as you can tell, it's like still the similar tabs, but like you can still see there are a couple of extra more now. And another thing that I started doing is use the transparent tabs, as you can tell, which I did like, because sometimes when it's like for a very large sticky note, I would have to put it still on the text, so it'd still be in the way. So now with the transparent sticky notes, I would be able to place it on the page and then write basically between the lines, just so that it's more visible, and also like it doesn't take away from reading, but it still kind of bothered me. So, you know, another thing I've seen people do with the transparent sticky notes is that they would basically place it, they have like longer ones, and it would place it on the part where they had wanted to like annotate or like underline, and then they would just basically underline on the sticky notes. Another thing that I saw people do, that because they want to annotate and they want to underline, but they don't want to write in their books directly, what they would do is that they would use transfer paper, I think it's called. It's like transparent paper, and they would basically put that on the page, write on it and underline where it needed, and then they would basically take it out and still write like the page number on it, so that they know where, like which one goes where, and then, you know, so that it doesn't like take away from the book and also doesn't damage the book. But yeah, I'm showing every single example that I went through my annotation journey in case there's something you find that you like. I see a lot of people that use this specific method by lining the edge of the page, and they just do that. They don't use tabs. They basically color the edge of the pages instead of the tabs. What I have seen as well is that basically people would see the paragraph that they want to like that they underlined, and basically based on that they would color in which color, and once again use the edge of the page as a tab. What I've seen, it looks fun, but knowing me, it would look fugly, so I stopped trying coloring the edge of the pages because it didn't end up. I think I did that for like 3 books and I gave up on it. I do recommend it if you don't like the look of like the tabs, and also if you're scared that, you know, by placing the books on your shelves it's going to damage the tabs. The coloring of the edge of the page is also an option, I guess. Then we get into the part where I actually did really try to match the tabs to the cover, which led to me buying even more tabs, which are mainly the tabs that you can like buy on Amazon and stuff like that, where it has like a couple of like aesthetic colors basically. They have different shades of purple, different shades of teal, blue, red, so on and so forth, which I did end up doing for a very long time, but I ended up realizing that whenever I would buy the same tabs again, whenever they would arrive, they would have like slight differences in shades. Like I would never have the exact same shades over and over, which bothered me. So I actually gave up on those tabs, but when I still use them, it would look something like this. I'm using my copy of Delilah Green Doesn't Care and Ashford Parker Doesn't Fail. You have this one where it has like most of the purple tabs, and then for example what I meant by the different shades, it would be these, and you have the ones where there's only the edge that like the tip that has color, and then the rest is white. Whereas you also have the ones where, let me try and see if I have them in here. I think I only have the edge ones in this one specifically. Yeah, but you also have the ones that have like the entire tab in the same color. But as you can tell, it's like as an attempt to like use more purple than anything else. And also another thing that I don't know if you could tell, but between these two specifically, you can also see like I used to make my tabs stick out quite a bit, but then I actually started making them like be a bit more aligned with the page, like they don't stick out too much. I used to be a maniac because I used to use a ruler to specifically measure how much they like stuck out of the page. Okay, so I stopped doing that because I realized how insane that was. If you annotate and tab your books and you do that, good for you, like it looks clean as hell. But it just took, I'm already such a slow reader, and so doing that took so much more time than was necessary in my opinion. So I stopped doing that. So I just like try to basically make them stick out in the like the same amount, but if it's not perfect, it's not the end of the world. And in Ashford Parker Doesn't Fail, I also still use the like aesthetic colored tabs, and as you can see, this is what I mean, where it's like the full tab. And with this one, I also started writing directly in the book. I think by this point I did write a lot more with pen. I also did the same in Delilah Green Doesn't Care. So for not long after, I think even in Horror Hotel as well, I also started, yeah, and this one also started writing in the book itself. I don't remember exactly when I started writing directly in the book with a pen, but it was a slow process of basically getting more comfortable in doing so. And then now we get into my current way of tabbing, which is looking a lot more like this. I'm gonna use my 2 copies of Dame, Heaven of Visual Blessings and Grandmaster Noir Cultivation, because quite frankly, that's basically all I read recently. So these are the only 2 options I really have to give for as examples. So as you can tell with this one, I try to match as much the cover as possible because I don't have that many like red tabs. I use teals and yellows and oranges, basically just trying to match the cover as much as possible. And I do have an annotation key at the beginning of the book, which is something I started doing a lot more, which is right here, because I stopped using a main key. I don't think I have an annotation key in Delilah Green though. No, I do not. I think I might have at one point, but I stopped doing it? Question mark? I don't remember. I don't even remember if I finished annotating. No, I finished it physically, so I did annotate it completely. Ignore me. But yes, so basically it would be kind of like useless for me to explain what each of these tabs mean, because in every single book now they mean different things. But I usually have the same types of key, like the same annotation key, like I use the same like types of tabs, just different colors depending on the color of the cover, as you can tell. I don't know if you can see that. Basically I would have quotes, love and favorite moments in one tab, Love means basically just like if they're like romance between two characters and stuff like that. I would have character and writing, which is also a tab that I stopped because I, you know, just whenever I would see that something in the writing I liked, I would just tab it as a quote. So kind of merge those two together as well. Then I will also have a tab for funny moments, what the fuck and shocking moments, angry moments, alphabet mafia, which is again queer moments, world and magic, which once again I merged that one with important, and then obviously important and plot twist and sad moment. Now I think it's very similar with Grandmaster of Normal Cultivation, but just to show you, I have a couple of less tabs because, like I said, I merged a couple of ones together. I have quotes, love and favorites, funny moments, what the fuck, angry and ew moments, gay moments, important and twists, relatable, and the purple one, I don't know what, I think the purple one means sad. Oh, another tab that I forgot to, I think, do I have it in here? I don't think I wrote it down, but I do have it in there as well. But I don't think I wrote it down in the key. I don't think so. I don't remember if in this one specifically, I made a separate key. But if you've read Heaven Official Blessings, there is like a running thing in that series where Shelia and the main character doesn't know whether to laugh or cry. That's like in the book all the time. Like there's something that happens and he's like, Shelia doesn't know whether to laugh or cry. And it happens so often, I have a tab for it. And in this one specifically, in Grandmaster of Normal Cultivation, I wasn't expecting it. And I started once. I was like, okay. I started twice. I was like, don't make me give you a tab as well. And then finally, it happened. It got a tab as well. I just didn't write it down in the annotation key. And then I also have another tab in here, but I didn't write down what it meant. So let me look through, trying to find what this one means. Yeah, this one means sad. Okay. So the last one meant sad moment. So as you can tell, I merged a couple of tabs together. Some tabs I use more often than not. Sometimes I add some tabs depending on the book. Like for example, if it's a mystery specifically, I would, you know, utilize the important and plot twist tabs a lot more because, you know, it's a mystery. So I want to keep track of the information and like potential foreshadowing. When it comes to romance, I would use the romance tab a lot more. In horror books, I would use a scary tab, so like moments that maybe like that actually scared me. Those are all of the examples for like the way I annotate my books now, the way I annotated them before. My favorite ways, my least favorite ways. My least favorite was definitely this one, where I colored the edge of the pages, which in my opinion is a waste of time, but I know that a lot of people rather color the pages instead of actually using tabs, which is smart because tabs are expensive. Okay, if you want to start annotating books, maybe first try with what you have on hand. Even if what you have on hand is literally just sticky notes, you can cut them into pieces just so that you can use those instead. And you know, if you don't like it, you didn't just waste money on a bunch of tabs that you're not going to use anymore. My favorite one is probably the way I do it now because it's fun, and also like even though it's not the same like matching the cover as it used to be with like the different shades of the same color, at least it's cheaper, and you know, the tabs are of better quality because those, for some reason, usually the tabs didn't stick to the page correctly, and sometimes when I would just grab the book, a bunch of tabs would just fall out because they're like, they were so bad. If you want to buy those aesthetically pleasing colors for tabs, keep that in mind that sometimes the glue on it isn't very good, and also if you want to buy them in bulk, you might not have the same shades over and over. Sometimes they're different ones for some reason. Now I want to get into the way that I annotate my manga. I only recently started doing it. Like this is the first manga I ever annotated, and I think I read this one in May, so really not that long ago. And for the first one, I actually used my old system which is with like really with the basic colors. So pink for like favorite and for favorite moments I love, and my favorite quotes. Angry moments with orange. Then for yellow, I used yellow for the art style, so if something about the art I really liked. Green for funny, blue for sad, and purple for relatable. Now another thing that I did, at first I didn't do that, but I started doing it, was using colored pencils to basically color in like what I'm exactly tabbing. Like, I thought of using highlighters, but I was scared that because manga pages are sometimes a lot thinner than book pages, I actually just used pencils. And in a way, I started treating it as my own personal like coloring book. Like, I started coloring in the blushes as well, and it looks so cute. I actually lied, this isn't the first manga I annotated, and that's the second one actually. The first one was The Moon on a Rainy Night. Let me grab it. Oh, my ass hurts. I have like 3 chairs in this room, yet I'm sitting on the fucking floor. Oh my god. So this is actually the first manga I ever annotated. And once again, I tried to use tabs that match the covers, which is like a lot of blues and teals. And as you can see, like the annotation key. I use relatable, gay, because it is a Yuri manga. Art, favorite and love, sad moments, dislike, and funny. I didn't use a quotes tab in this one, even though I would still annotate my favorite quotes with the love and favorite tabs, just because I didn't think I would have quotes that I wanted to specifically highlight. But I think I did highlight a couple of quotes no matter what. And it's also in this one that I actually started like using colored pencils. I just flipped through and look at it. Look at it. It's so pretty. I love the art style in this. And then also sometimes I would write in pencil in between the panels, but because there's not always that much space, I would also like utilize the sticky notes in my manga as well. Like, see at the bottom here, I wrote in pencil. I prefer to write in pencil in my manga for the same reason why I used to write in pencil in my books, is because I am scared of ruining them, especially this one because this one was a gift as well. So I was very nervous to get into it. But yeah, I would also just start doodling a little bit. Like, for example, I don't know if you can see it, but I drew a heart right here, and then also like kind of like highlighted the character. I used to just highlight the panel, but then if it's like specifically a character that I wanted to highlight because I thought the outside was really pretty, I would just like kind of like outline the character. This takes up also a little bit of time, but it's really fun because, like I said, it's kind of like a coloring book basically. I'm having a lot of fun annotating my manga. Let me just see if I can give another example in this one. Yeah, once again, the little doodles, the little hearts, and like sometimes it would be like very chaotic, like there's a lot. But yeah, like once again, this is kind of like a fun way to kind of personalize manga, the same way to personalize books. And then I also started annotating my volumes of the Apothecary Diaries. The first one I annotated was volume 7, so I'm actually going back to reread the first volumes to annotate them as well. But in this one, it's similar story. I would use a tab key with love, favorite and quotes, sad, arts, angry and dislike, relate, funny, and important and twists. Now in this one, since this is not the first one in the series, I'm not gonna give like examples where there's potential spoilers in case anyone wants to read these, but I'm trying to see if I have any examples of how like right here with Junshi, I highlighted the edge of him because look at this man. Or like, for example, in this manga specifically, they have blue roses, and because obviously the manga is in black and white, I would basically just color in the blue roses if it wants to focus. And same thing on the next page as well. The explanation, I also colored in the blue roses. It's really fun. I really like annotating my manga. It's something that I started doing recently because I saw one TikTok about it, and then I was like, maybe not. But then the more I thought about it, and I was like, okay, I might try it out, especially because I saw other other people's system, and I basically just use the same way I annotate my books, but just a little differently. Instead of using highlighters, I would use pencils. Like I said, treat it like a little like coloring book. Now, I also wanted to give a couple of reasons why some people don't want to annotate their books, which, like I mentioned before, it's mainly just because they're scared that they would ruin the book, or they think that writing in books is ruining them. Even though, me personally, if I were to, like, if for example some people would not want to annotate their books because if they don't like the book and they want to sell it, they're scared that they won't be able to sell it anymore because it has annotations and writing in it. However, me personally, and I have heard of a couple of other people as well, that they actually like buying secondhand books that have annotations in them, because it's for me personally, it's like I said before, it's like a personal touch to a book. And so seeing what other people thought of it while they were reading it is really fun. I just think it's really fun. Another reason why some people wouldn't want to annotate their books is because they just don't like the look of it. They don't like the look of the tabs. They also don't really understand like the reason why. And then there's some people who do want to annotate their books because, one, it's fun, two, they like the look of it, and three, some of them use their annotations to kind of like as a guide to write their review. Like they would like flip through their tabs, see what happened, see what stood out to them, and based on those things they would write their review. Also, other people would tab books for school and for like studying, or like if someone is an aspiring author, they would read their favorite books and basically highlight and tab the parts that they loved and like what stood out to them, and like, you know, things they might want to incorporate in their own writing. There are many reasons why people would want and not want to annotate their books. It's just up to the reader themselves. So if you want to try annotating, I would suggest, like I said before, first going into it with what you already have on hand. Like, don't go out and buy like a bunch of different tabs already, or like go on Amazon, buy those aesthetically pleasing ones, even though you can. But if in case that you don't like annotating, or you feel like it's just not for you, then you're just there with all of those tabs and you're not going to use them anymore, and just you wasted a bunch of money. I'm gonna have to film the outro for this video another time because my battery's about to die. Hell yeah. Hi, editing Chloe here. So I realized I never ended up filming an outro for this video. I just finished editing it and I'm mad because I didn't end up filming it. I originally recorded like a voice recording on my computer of the outro that I wanted to make with my PNG tuber, but for some reason the audio didn't want to sync, so it's also trash. Then I also tried to film it with my phone, but for some reason the video file doesn't want to transfer from my phone to my computer, so I'm left doing this. But yeah, I don't remember exactly what I wanted to say in the outro. Just generally what I already said before. Just annotate for fun, or if you want to like annotate books for school, or if you're an aspiring author, you can annotate your books to kind of see how your favorite authors write their books and how like the system that they use, how they write their plots and stuff like that. Just kind of like using annotation as a study tool is also very useful. And also, if you're scared to start annotating, you can always just start with something very simple, a very simple system, and also with pencils and like, or you know, sticky notes. Basically a bit of a roundup of everything I've already explained in this video. But yeah, I hope you guys like this video. I know it's very long. It's like close to an hour. I think that once I add this clip to it, it's probably going to be like close to an hour. I apologize for that. I was not planning on it to be that long. I was planning for it to be like pretty short, but I just started yapping and I gave every single example that I ever had for my like annotations. I originally planned just explaining how I annotate my books now, but for some reason I didn't do that. I just ended up explaining my annotation journey. So sorry if it was very long. I know that a lot of people like long videos. I don't know if for this type of video, if it's the same thing. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please remember to leave a like or a dislike. I don't care. Do whatever you feel like doing. And yes, happy October. And also, I'm filming this outro during ACE Awareness Week. So if this is also uploaded this week, happy week to my fellow ACEs. Bye!